I can't imagine the amount of hours somebody put into, all right, I just got to perfect this.
Welcome to another episode of the Convoluted Podcast. It's your host, Jesus, aka Tyrant Dominus, and today we have another guest from the Reddit realm. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is William. I'm also known as Bill Lazerman, elsewhere on the internet. I'm a podcast host and a content creator, and I'm happy to be here.
And we're happy to have you. I honestly did not get a chance to listen to your show. That's on my own fault. Can you tell us a little bit about it?
So, don't have a show currently. I've actually been podcasting for about 10 years now, and it's kind of been all over the place. I've done shows about nerd culture. I did a music podcast for a long time, and I'm currently in between podcasts, but currently have one in the works if we'd like to talk about that.
I'd like to touch upon all that, but let's start about the here and now, and let the audience know what's coming up in the future.
Absolutely. So my new podcast is called A Hint of Fiction. If you remember the show Fact or Fiction with Riker from Star Trek, Jonathan Frakes, it was kind of a show where you had 5 or 6 stories. Several of them were true. 7 of them were not true. Same premise for my podcast. You're going to have 3 stories come out. 2 of them are going to be real stories, things that have actually happened in the world. And one of them is going to be a fabricated story. And so after all 3 stories are told, you have to figure out what were the actual stories and which are the false story. And so then, of course, we'll give you each of that at the end of the podcast, and you have the ability to kind of play along, which is fun.
Okay, I like that concept. It gives the audience this weird, like, what is the host trying to tell me? Like, it can be sometimes, because honestly, on the internet these days, anything that seems real can be fake, and vice versa. So having that as a show is actually pretty amazing.
It's a really interesting concept, because with my research, I found so many crazy stories that are true, things that have happened in the world that I'm like, oh my God, this was real. And so I was like, I could write something like fiction. And I think I like that concept, which is why it's called A Hint of Fiction, because you have this back and forth between what is real and what's not.
That is true. And if anyone's wondering, yes, there are baffling stories. Actually, there was a fun Twitter feed that was happening just a couple days ago. If you type in just Florida man and your month and date of birth, you could see what random story comes out of it. So if I kind of quickly see here, Florida man, my birthday, and the thing. See here. Okay, here it goes. Florida man dies in e-cigarette explosion. Please save.
I love the new trend right now. It's so good.
God, the only reason I know about the Florida Man were a couple guests that came on a couple months ago that were joking about it, and I was like, what is this Florida Man fiasco? Because it's I don't know. Florida has some oddities, to say the least.
Oh yeah, very much. There's always something interesting coming from Florida.
So, and that Twitter thread just kept going and going, and I was like, damn. Okay. But no, I do enjoy the concept. That's actually something I'm actually hoping to look forward to. Because I need a new show, something different. Not that I've grown stale. It's just I want something unique, I would say.
I absolutely. There's so many podcasts out there, and there's so many people working. You're like, you got to find something new. There's always something new to be listening to.
So, and I'm a little biased sometimes because I've grown attached to some of the shows from my guests. Maybe because I've talked to them in this one-on-one setting for the most part, and I've grown to enjoy their works. But maybe that's also coming from someone who's like just starting up or have been doing it for a little bit and they're passionately doing it. So, like, yeah, it's just fun listening to people's works.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the things that I've learned is the more podcasts I listen to, the more things I learn and more techniques I learned to podcast. So it's really interesting kind of picking up little tips and tricks as I've been listening to newer and newer podcasts. I try to listen to 3 podcasts a week, and those are try to be different from what things I've already listened to. And of course, I have my usuals I enjoy, but I really try to expand and see what's out there, who's recording what, and what new stuff is being made.
I wonder, okay, so actually, this is an interesting question because the way the analytics say it, what podcasting service or listening service do you use to listen to your shows?
So I travel a lot. So I use my phone. I actually use Podcast Addict, which is just a Samsung app, and it's great. I love it. That's really where I get most of mine. The other half is I have an Amazon in my house. And so I try to listen if I'm like cleaning or I'm working. I like to have something on the background, and Amazon's a great way of being able to have that blast out without having it, in a headset or speakers somewhere.
I never even thought about Amazon.
Yeah. They're kind of few and far between right now because you have to go through specific services to get into Amazon. But I would suggest it for any podcast. It's a great way to have your fans be able to have it right in their house.
Amazon, I'm coming right for you next, But no, yeah, it's one of those questions that I wish I asked a little bit more, mostly for those who are in the podcasting games, because depending on your knowledge, if you're like a newcomer coming into this field, depending on whatever hosting site you decide to post your show on, sometimes they're able to help you along the ways and put your show onto like iTunes and Google and Podcast Addict and the like. But then there are times where it's just on that site, and it kind of feels maybe sometimes your work is not being appreciated because it's not listened to a lot, but it's because your show isn't properly distributed.
Absolutely. I would say marketing is the second biggest thing you can do for your podcast. And if your podcast isn't in the right spots and people don't know where to find it, they're not going to be listening. And that's huge. So I always suggest, find a place that's going to give you that access to all these different places. Spotify is a big place for podcasts now. And, Amazon, like I talk about, and make sure you're on iTunes, and you have to make sure that you're hitting all the spaces that essentially the big podcasts are in, because you want to be in those markets too.
Exactly. It's honestly, it took me about 3 months to get on to almost every platform except Amazon, but you're coming next.
I like it.
But it took a while because I honestly had to do a little research, like how do I get my show onto iTunes? How do I get it onto Google? How do I get it onto Overcast or iHeartRadio or Spotify? There's so many platforms like you mentioned, but it's just sometimes you have to put a little bit more effort into submitting your work into them.
Very much so, yes. And depending on where you're at, it's more of a wall to kind of climb over than others. So if you're looking to start a podcast, definitely make sure you know your gambit and look into what's going to be the best hosting site for you.
Oh no, that is on a second note true, because depending on if this is like a hobby for anyone listening, if this is just kind of like a hobby and not really something you want to put money into, because I personally pay for my hosting service, so it's costing money to provide everyone listening. It costs money to provide this content for you, but I'm willing to do it because I enjoy doing it. But if you're just doing it for fun, there are a couple of free sites. But like I said, some of those sites don't provide some of the tools you think you might need, but some of them do. There is one site I normally recommend for up-and-comers. It's Anchor. It's one that I use for a second show, an experimental show that I do. And it has, for the most part, the tools you need. It uploads simple analytics. And a bonus, and I wish I knew this, it actually helps put your show onto other sites for you. So you don't have to do that extra step.
Oh, that's nice.
That is nice. And I wish I knew that ahead of time. But I know now. And luckily that second show it's doing all right for what it is. And it just sits there. So let's get back a little bit back into you. So you mentioned that you've been in this field for almost about 10 years. That's it's a good amount of time. What are some of the earlier works you were kind of working on?
So I graduated in 2008, and 2009, 2010, I was hanging out with some of my high school friends, and a friend of mine, I've always been a big Kevin Smith fan, everything from Clerks to Dogma. I really enjoy his work, and I love his kind of go-to attitude. And so we were listening to Smodcast, which was, God, one of the first you had like Adam Carolla and Joe Rogan and, WTF with Mark Maron and Smodcast. Those were like the big ones at the time. And I just fell in love with the medium. I loved the ability to, it was a blend of technology as well as a blend of content making, which I really liked at the time. I was kind of, like I said, just out of high school. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I really fell in love with podcasting. So me and my three friends were like, let's do this podcast. And it was garbage. and I mean that in the best possible way. But it was very much a learning experience for me. I learned a lot about equipment and what's good equipment and what good sound recording needs to look like and what you need to do to have kind of a good space to record in. I also taught, you learned about content. What is good content? What is bad content? And we only did maybe 10, 15 episodes, but I feel like I learned so much from that show. It was well worth it. It was called Kind of Sketchy Comedy. We were kind of doing that and improv at the same time. It's no longer on the internet anywhere. If you can find it in the archives, that's amazing. Heavily send me some of that stuff, but I think it's lost to the ether now. That was my first show. And then from there, I kind of dropped podcasting for about 6 or 7 years, doing a bunch of other things. I did live performances. I did self-produced plays. I was in the music scene for quite a few years after that. And when I was with my band, which we may talk about a little bit later, we were looking for a way to kind of engage our audience. We did shows and we kind of knew, but we wanted to expand out and kind of get this Stupid Flanders, which was our band's name, out there. And so we started podcasting again under the name Talking Stupid. And again, it was an amazing show. Because of personal reasons, I had to leave and we decided just to stop recording. But it was such an amazing time. I learned so much from that. I learned about content and interviews, and we did a lot of music interviews with people in our scene, and it was really interesting to learn the dynamics of what's a good interview, what things should I be asking. I just feel like a lot of people get into their podcast and they're like, I don't know what I do, and then they kind of lose it, and then they're like, well, that was a failure. But you have to understand that those failures are stepping stones moving you forward, and you should always look back at those moments and go, what did I learn from that? What was the good pieces that I found from all this? And I feel like with every new project and thing I do, it's a stepping stone. And I think you have to really look at it that way.
I know, I totally agree with that. Mostly, well, it's funny because I recently talked to someone who's been in the field also for a couple of years, and mostly in that interview field, and just hearing you say, it's hard to kind of finally get into in that mindset. It's like you might fail and trip here and there, but it's like you said, it's a stepping stone to just get yourself better and better, little by little.
Mm-hmm.
And an audience, you're on the ride with me. But it's been a fun ride, and it's been enjoyable. Like for some people, actually, I've been asked this a lot. Like, why do you do this? Why do you talk to random strangers? Like, there's no point. Like, the point is, one, it's like this is a chance that I'll get to talk with someone who I'll probably never meet, mostly because you're like on the other side of the country at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And on top of that, we get a chance to converse and have a chance to learn from each other in some sense. Me more than you, but you have a chance to promote yourself.
Absolutely. And I think with this, on top of that, we're having this discourse. We're learning stuff from each other. And I think this is an amazing podcast you do. I was listening to a couple of your previous episodes, and this is a wealth of information that you're providing people, which is really amazing.
That's one of the things I hope to do with this show is I provide someone with either a little bit of entertainment, or a little bit of knowledge, or a mix of both. That's kind of all I hope for my audience. For myself, I hope, and my guests, I hope I can provide an enjoyable conversation and some entertainment here and in between.
I think you do a great job with that. So one of the reasons I saw your podcast and I was like, I got to do this. This is great. This is great content, and I want to be a part of that.
I appreciate that. So I want to actually dive in a little bit about your music career a little bit. That threw me off a little bit. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely. So I started working in a new job, and I met my trainer was in a band, and I had done music for the most of my high school career with a little bit of mixture of theater in the process of that, and I played trombone, and I was like, oh, that's so cool, you're in a band. He's like, I need a trombone player, and which are words that you don't hear. Nobody needs a trombone player. So I was very surprised. I was like, what kind of band are you in? He was like, I'm in a ska band. And I was like Real Big Fish, Mighty Mighty Bosstones. He's like, yeah, the scene's still really big, and we need more people playing. And so it was one of those things where I was like, no, I'm too busy in my life. I can't do this. And he was like, just come to one show. Just come and see the band, and you can make a decision from there. And I just happened to go out to a show one night. I had nothing to do, and I was like, hey, they're playing, let's go. And I fell in love with it. I fell in love with the music. I fell in love with the people there, the band itself. Some of them are some of my best friends that I've made in my life. And so, yeah, I joined Stupid Flanders maybe a week later, and I was with them for almost 4 years. Yeah. And we just performed all over Orange County in the ska scene, and it was a wonderful experience, and I absolutely love it. And you should check them out. I will put the link. We can put the link in the description. Is that okay?
Nope. Yeah, I'll put any links that you need me to share.
You're my hero. Yeah. So we'll put the link in the description. They've got some amazing music, and I definitely suggest checking them out. There's some good stuff there.
All right, I'm kind of looking into, like, I've heard the genre ska, but I've never known what it is. I'm kind of glimpsing on what it is.
Ska can be broken down into it's like rock punk with a horn section, as I like to call it. If you can think of the impression that I get from Mighty Mighty Bosstones, or even there's a new band called the Interrupters out there. They've been played on the radio more and more. That's very much punk ska, and that's just the style. It's very upbeat. Upstrokes are huge in ska. Horn sections. It's just a very different kind of music than we have kind of now on the radio. And I just fell in love with the music and the group. Like, Orange County is a huge place for ska right now, and there's so many good bands coming out of that area. The community is just absolutely fantastic. I just fell in love with everything about it. So
all right, I'm gonna dive deep into this, like, genre of music that I've heard but never listened. That's the perfect way to say it. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, you're like, I'm aware of it, but it's not in my circles.
So all right, now I know what to do tonight at work. So that's 4 years. That's a good chunk of life to delve into it. But it sounds like you really embraced it. You just dove deep into it.
Oh yeah, it was definitely a major part of my life for a long time. I really, like I said, the people I've met out there are just amazing people. They're just such a good community. I've just seen people that never have heard the music before come in, be like, I just wanted to check out a show, and just become immediately fans and just made lifelong friends there. There's so many good bands playing good music out. It was really a wonderful time in my life, and I try to get back to them as often as I can and just go see them and support them. But yeah, I definitely try to put their name out there as often as I can, because they're a really good band, and it's a really good community that the ska scene has really built.
Okay, cool. So everyone, check out the link. I'm going to be checking out myself and then diving deep into this genre. And actually, on that note, like, one thing I think I've mentioned before is, like, I myself have not been in the music scene until more recently, in the last couple years. Mm-hmm. As far as like actually listening to music, like, it's been background noise, to say the least. But it's more recently that I've been enjoying it more and gotten to, like, actually know names and things like that. On top of that, I've gone to see actually more live shows, and at that point, that's when I've actually grown to enjoy the music a little bit more, and on top of that, like, really appreciate the band because of those shows itself and the community around it. So if anyone's listening, if you ever get a chance to go see a band live, the atmosphere, the crowd, everything, you just get to, like, embrace it a little bit more.
Yeah, it definitely changes the way you look at music, especially when it's one thing listening to it on the radio and enjoying it, but once you're there, like, experiencing it with a group of people, it's another reason why always suggest if you're going to go see a movie you want to see it in the theaters, see it as soon as possible, because there's something about this communal energy that everybody gets, and you're all sitting there enjoying this one thing, and it just connects you to people in almost a subconscious way where you're not really, you're not directly interacting with people, but you have this experience together, and it really just changes those moments for you, and it's a wonderful, wonderful time.
I totally agree. So like we're saying, guys, everyone listening, just like when you get a chance, enjoy these kind of communal events. Is that the best way to say it? Let's say it that way. Enjoy it with the people around you, and like be it a film, be it a concert, be it a play. Like enjoy it for what it is with the people around you, because that's an experience that only you and the people around you are experiencing at that moment.
Exactly. And support local bands. I have to put that in just because, not to say don't go see your favorite band. Absolutely. But support local music. There's a lot of good stuff coming from a lot of cool places, and you're going to be surprised at the cool music you find.
I totally agree. That's kind of I'm up here in Oregon, in the Portland area. So there's like a lot of like local music. So I get a chance to dip into some of the surroundings on that. So and on top of that, they're cheap tickets. I'm not gonna deny that either.
Yeah, I will say that always helps.
When I used to think about going to actually see concerts, like the prices baffling for some of the I would say popular artists or bands, I'm going to say. So when I went to go see my first concert that my buddy invited me to, I was like dreading it a little bit because I didn't know how much it was going to cost me. But he said, you should come. Like, sure. I was already picturing like $100+. And when it came time, he bought my ticket. Like I was going to pay him back. He said like it was like $40. Like, oh, that's not too bad. Sure. It was like a good time. And then soon after, like some of the local ones, once I got more into the scenes in the area, I started noticing they're like, it's not too expensive once you start listening it, because one, you're getting to enjoy sometimes you get to enjoy more than one band. You get a good assortment or lineup. On top of that, you find new people that you've never heard of. And like you said, I've actually met some of the bands, because they kind of just, once the band's been done, they kind of sit around and hang out with the crowd. And I've had my fair share of meetups, or like meet up with the band and had drinks with them. Like, hey, I enjoyed your set. That was really cool. And like you, so you never know who you might bump into while you're just listening to the music, and it's crazy.
That's awesome.
On top of that, you're into theater. That's also another side turn that I did not expect it either.
Yeah, in my early 20s, I really wanted to. I've always had this, I call it the creative bug. I've always wanted to make something, and so for a long time, it was kind of, well, what do I do? And I kind of tried a lot of things for a long time, which is another reason why I settled on podcasting and kind of the live perspective, streaming and YouTube and podcasting. I really like this perspective, because it's so different from anything else. Yes, I did theater in high school, and then when I was in my early 20s, me and my friends, same guys who did the podcast, decided to we're like, hey, let's put a play on. We know what we're doing. There's this great series of plays from the Shakespeare Abridged company, where they basically take different sections of society. So their first big play was all the great works of William Shakespeare abridged. And so they take, his 40-ish plays and condense them down to a two-hour play. It's great. It's funny. It's quick. It gives you a great insight into Shakespeare without having to, have a 4-year degree in English and Shakespeare. We did another one of their plays called All the Great Books Abridged. They take about 200 books. They condense it into a 2-act play. And it was fun. It was one of those things where I wanted to try something new. I wanted to know the intricacies of what it really takes to create a full production. And it was hard. Don't get me wrong. It was practices every day and looking for costumes and finding places to perform and, rehearsing and trying to get all this stuff on top of having a life and working and doing all the other things that I was doing. And it was a weirdly rewarding moment, because I was able to kind of experience this something from a different perspective. I've always been an actor, and I've been working in acting for a couple of years at that time, and it was interesting to have to be part of the business perspective and part of the production side. It was a very worthwhile experience, and I enjoyed every minute of it, and I would never do it again.
Oh, okay. I love that final note. Hey, once you accomplish something, sometimes you don't have to go back.
Exactly. Like, you don't have to climb Mount Everest a second time. You did it. Congratulations. but you don't need to do that again. It's okay.
Oh, I love that. I truly love that. So tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Absolutely. As of right now, I'm working in podcast editing. One of the things I was able to pick up in my time in music and in podcasting is kind of learning what good sound sounds like. And that's I talk about marketing is the second biggest thing in your podcast. I'm going to bump that. That's going to be your third biggest thing. First is audio sound. I can tell you how many podcasts I've listened to that I thoroughly love the content that they were providing me, but the audio was just needed that extra loving, just needed a little extra time and a little extra energy, and it could have been an amazing podcast. But because the audio is off in one way, it throws you off. And I think that's a big complaint for a lot of people. One of the great things about podcasting is you have the ability to create something with very little energy. I can find a speaker and a computer for a couple $100. You can set up a free RSS feed and a free website, and you're done. You're on the road to podcasting. But taking that little extra effort and making sure that it's good sound and you're making good content is really important. And so that's what I'm really trying to instill to other people and trying to help other people out, is understanding these little pieces of like, you make your podcast sound good, you have good content, you're going to do really well. And it doesn't matter what you do, because podcasting is such an open market that you can do almost anything with it. As long as you're doing those two things and you're marketing properly, the world's your oyster.
Hey, I couldn't say better myself. Like for listeners right now, you might think there's repetition, but no, the reason we're repeating it is because it's true. Like quality both in sound and content is what we're trying to provide you guys. And that's what we try to strive for. And that's the only reason we keep repeating it. And that's why almost every guest who is in the podcasting game says it. It's because it's something we try to live by. And yeah, that's... Like if you're going to hear it once, you're going to hear it 1,000 times for many other guests. Like quality, that's what we're trying for.
Yes, good content and good sound is always going to bring people back.
Here's my question. You listen to my show, so like, what do you think?
Oh, you're going to make me do that live? Oh. It's good. I like your content. I think you're doing good stuff. I think the perspective that you're bringing for these things is really interesting. Like I talked, the one episode I can say I have listened to was the pharmacy episode, which was a couple episodes back. But it was really interesting because it was a perspective I'd never thought about, but it wasn't something in my life. It's something that I've been so focused on arts and entertainment and podcasting for so long that it was like, oh yeah, there are other people out there with other passions, and it's a really interesting perspective, and I like what you're doing. I think your content's good.
Thank you. So, like, quality of audio, what thought on that?
I would say there's always room for improvement. Equalization is great. Make sure you're compressing your work is always an important one, but audio is not bad. Audio, but I always think audio is an ever changing, ever improving piece. Like, as much as I've always been the person where it's like, oh, this sounds good, it can sound better though. I just always suggest go ahead and kind of working towards better audio.
Okay.
Always.
The only reason I asked, I actually had a sound designer couple of weeks back, and we had a similar discussion as right now. So it's interesting, mostly with people who are doing this, like audio design on podcasts or music. It's some people have a better ear than others, and they can tell a little bit of a difference, and they can spot some things that the average Joe will not.
That's true. Yes, very much so. Yeah, there's little moments where it's like, oh, your guess was too low, you've got to turn that up. Like, yeah, you kind of start to get an ear for those things, and it just happens. It's just kind of the industry you kind of become in.
More recently, I've grown into that too, and I've tried to avoid it so much as being like nitpicky, but like you said, I've been doing my best to improve the quality as best as I can. So there are things people can do better, and I try to strive for as best as I can with the time I'm given. Yeah,
that's always a fun. It's like, do I stay up all night and tweak this audio to make it sound really good, or do I sleep? That's sometimes you get in you have to find the balance on that.
So I'm glad that you're trying to, not only are you currently trying to work on a new project, but you're also improving your skills in the game, because that's something that will continue even after your projects are done. Is learning a new skill or improving on a current skill is something we all should kind of strive for.
Absolutely. I always agree. There's if you think you know everything, you clearly don't. You're not looking deep enough. I always, there's always places to work on and things to help you. And yes, skills are super important, because even if you're just like, I want to learn how to compress things, that's a skill. You're learning how to improve your audio, and then, mix with that with some other audio editing techniques. And, then all of a sudden you're like, oh, I can audio engineer stuff. And it's kind of a cool feeling where you're like, I get this now. Like, this all makes sense. And yeah, always look to improve. That's always a good thing to be doing.
Here's a fun question. What's a skill that you would want to know that is pretty much useless in everyday society?
Oh, like a skill that, like, maybe it may not have any societal impact, but I would really want to know. That it falls me down the road of, I love asking the random superhero power. Like, what useless superhero power would you have? And for me, it would be like always knowing when the mail gets here. That would always be my power. And I feel like that would just be a skill that I would love to have. Like, knowing postal routes, I guess I could translate it that way. Just always knowing when mail was going to be available. I don't have to be like, is my package going to get here? It's just, I know it's here.
I have a chink on that. Would that mail just be like physical mail or email as well?
Physical mail. I feel like we're in a stage with emails that everything's on my phone anyway. So like, I get a buzz whenever I get an email. So in one way, I already have that superpower. I just need it to be more practical in the real world.
All right. Now that's actually another interesting question. What might useless superpower be?
Oh, I'm curious. I love asking this question because people come up with the most interesting things.
It's kind of similar to like a skill, because it might be mapley, but it's still a skill. So I like, as far as skill, like just a normal skill, I was trying to think while we were talking, is it's helpful for some people, I'm not gonna lie, but for me, where I'm currently living, like raising chickens, like,
okay.
Reason being is like, one of my uncles, he's a farmer, and he totes of having fresh chicken eggs like every morning, and like, oh, that's cool, you have eggs for the most part, but you got to raise them, and then like once a chicken gets old, you get chicken, But for me, living where I am right now, I can't have chickens, but it would be an interesting skill to learn how to raise a chicken.
Oh, absolutely. Chickens are one of those animals that can be inherently self-sustaining without having to kill them every time to get stuff. That's really interesting. Skill wise, I guess I never answered your question. Let me go back to that. I would love to have, actually, this sounds really silly, I'd love to be able to have more woodworking abilities, like just as a skill. I just feel like that's something so necessary that maybe not everybody needs these days, but I'd love to just be able to, I need a table. Oh, I'll just go build it. I just feel like it's kind of a lost art per se.
Surprisingly, I actually do have that skill. That's kind of,
do you really? That's awesome.
Kind of how I'm currently working. Everyone listening, I'm going to be posting photos soon. I'm working on a studio for this whole gig. So I'm kind of building it, not from scratch. I'm taking an old trailer and insulating it, putting my own desks built from scratch kind of, and everything. So that's
super cool.
Fun project coming up. So thank God summer's almost here.
You're like, I just need a little time to finish it up.
Actually, just about to get started. I just barely found someone giving away a trailer, and I've been spending the last couple days just trying to throw away all their trash for them. You can't beat free.
No, exactly. If it takes a little elbow grease in the process, that's fine. But yeah, free is free.
Now, for random superpower, that one would have to be finding, I have the ability to find a random pencil lying around. Not a sharpened one, just a pencil, whenever I need a writing utensil.
I think that would, John Wick would really enjoy that.
He would. I think. John Wick, I got you. Wait. There it is, right here. Toss it to you. It's useless to me, but I got you.
See, it's all about superpowers. They don't necessarily have to be. What we learned from Sky High is you don't necessarily have the best power, but they have to be complementary to whoever you're working with. So you and John Wick. That's John Wick 4 right there. You got it. Congratulations.
By any chance, did you get to see the new John Wick trailer?
I have not. So. And the only reason that is because I'm trying to avoid trailers as much as possible to get more I'm one of those guys where if I'm going to watch a trailer, I'm going to watch it 8 times, and then it kind of loses the luster once I actually get to the movie. So I haven't watched it yet.
Okay.
Same reason I haven't watched the new Avengers Endgame trailer, but I really want to. I'm really excited for these movies. I'm like, all right, you sold me. I'm good. I don't need to see a trailer. You have my money already. It's okay.
Hey, I second that. You're not the only one. I've actually, surprisingly, half the guests, like there's a 50-50 on during the pre-show. You ask people, anyone listen? There is a pre-show. It's like, you don't get to listen, but I get to chat with my guests afterwards. We talk about little extra things here and there. Half the people agree that they don't watch trailers just for that. Just kind of lessens it a little bit. There's other things, but half the people on this show do not watch trailers.
That's so interesting. I would never have, if you'd asked me that, I wouldn't have guessed that in a million years. That's really interesting.
Yep, but I'm currently about 40 guests in, so there's like a 2020, including yourself now. 1921. If I'm trying to think.
But even then, that's as balanced as it's going to get.
So I'm going to try to keep that number and keep going. Let's see where the final number goes.
But that's really interesting.
Yep. But fun fact, at least for the Avengers Endgame trailer, is that as far as we've been informed and everything I've read, is that the trailer, that trailer in particular, and any trailer coming up before the movie is only going to show the first 20 minutes of the film and nothing else.
Oh, okay. That was what they did with The Force Awakens when it first came out, and I really appreciated that because, I know a lot of trailers try to get you in check out this really cool moment from the last, the third act, and that ruins it for me because I go, okay, well, I know that scene, I can guess context here, so I know how the ending's going to go, and that loses its luster for me. But if you keep it in the first 20 minutes, I can only see what you're going to show me, and that makes that viewing experience so much better.
Yes, and I can attest to one of the worst movies that it did that for, and that would be, I'm trying to remember, I think it was Justice League, or what was the movie after Batman vs Superman?
That was Justice League. Or was it Wonder Woman?
Was it that the one with Doomsday?
That's Batman vs Superman.
Okay, that one ruined it. The moment they said Doomsday in that movie, I was done. I still watched it. I still went to go see it. I went to go see it.
Exactly.
But it lost me, and I was extremely disappointed.
Yeah, no, I feel the exact same way. Like, you ruin Act 3 for me. I've got no reason. I mean, I'll give you my money. It's fine. I just want to have as good of a time. You're going to get a less exciting review on Rotten Tomatoes.
Exactly. It's interesting, mostly when right now we're like bombarded by not only, and I can attest to being someone like it, is like there's people posting their reactions to trailers and other events. I myself shill in that field on YouTube. I put reaction videos out there, but that's just for my own entertainment and anyone else who's willing to watch them. I've gone into this like hole of watching reaction videos too of certain events. Like I think that's one of the reasons I do enjoy watching trailers. One, I do like getting excited about whatever film or show or whatever that video is, and then diving into this like probably 3-hour long sit down on YouTube watching other people react to the same video, and I've seen this video for those 3 hours.
I recently, one of my favorite game series, Kingdom Hearts, came out, and that was definitely one of those games that I followed religiously, and I was checking the forums and I was looking up things, and reaction videos were actually one of those things that I was surprised how much they spoiled for me. People were just like so aware of the series and kind of what they were wanting to do, and people were hitting things on the nose that I wouldn't have necessarily like hit on, which is why I totally get that that's such an industry and people love it. I can't do those anymore because it's stuff that I may not want to think about, and I wouldn't have thought about, and that potentially ruins those reveals when they come around.
Question: did you finish Kingdom Hearts 3?
I have, yes.
Okay, so you're the only other person that I know that has finished it as well.
Really? Okay. Yes.
I'm on a gaming podcast show, but they have yet to start or care to play it.
Okay.
And I understand that for anyone listening, Kingdom Hearts is a very, very unique story. And I'm putting that lightly. It can get very convoluted at times. There's a lot happening. But when you're able to enjoy it for what it is, it's a very interesting story.
Yes, and I think I'll give you too much spoilers, I think with Kingdom Hearts 3, they did a really good job of condensing a lot of stuff, and we're going to be very streamlined going forward, which is great. You're right. Very convoluted storyline. When they brought time travel in, I was like, okay, well, that just, I was hoping for answers. You gave me more questions. That's okay. But with Kingdom Hearts 3, I think they did a really good job of going, all right, these storylines are resolved. Here's where we're moving forward with.
So here's an interesting question, because like yourself, I'm also part of that community. You're right. They did tie a lot of ending. Like, they closed a lot of things just right. I'm gonna say that lightly. Some of it felt underwhelming. I'm not gonna lie. I did shed some tears at some points.
Definitely.
There were some points towards the final act that I felt like, yes, it's complete. I get that they had to do that, but like, they put it all at the end. Like, that's complete. That group's complete. That one. Okay, that was a lot to take in one moment.
Oh yeah, pacing on the game was atrocious. You go through your 6 or 7 Disney Worlds and you're having a great time, but nothing happens. And then you get to the last 3 hours of the game and everything happens, which is great. A lot of cool content in the last 3 hours of the game, but it's just a lot to really process all at the same time. I think once I beat the game, it took me like 2 or 3 days to really go, okay, this is how I feel about the game. I like these things. It just took me a while because there was so much going on at the last, couple hours of the game.
Hey, no, I honestly took a week off work just to play the game.
I love it. I would have done the same if I had the luxury. I would have.
So I took my time, played for like 6 to 8 hours a day till I finished it. I actually sat once I was done with everything, and got the epilogue at the end too. Mm-hmm. Normally I would have gone onto YouTube and saw everyone else's reaction, but I honestly just kind of sat there for what felt like forever, but it was probably like an hour. And that's still a long time to just think about it. Because for being the third game, there's a whole lot of other games that people don't understand that they're out there.
That's true. Three is a little bit of a misnomer per se.
So I honestly just sat there thinking, this is where it's at the moment. Was it because the way I see games a little bit now is I had to kind of step away from being the Kingdom Hearts fan and think of it as a game. Like, did the story work well? What felt off? And then once the Kingdom Hearts kind of kicked in, like, I loved it so much, but I had to still step back. And there's a lot of little mistakes that could have been fixed. Story wise, that's all up to Nomura. He knows what he's doing. The one thing that did upset me about the story is that the lack of Final Fantasy characters. I don't understand what happened there. I was actually looking forward to finally trying to beat Sephiroth in this one.
Yeah, that would have been cool. And I'm sure there were reasons for it, and I know production kind of had some waivers along the way, and there was changes. I understand the reasoning. I'm sure there was explanations why. It is still disappointing at a certain point, but at the end of the day, there's always more. There'll be more games in the future, but I totally understand. Very, very disappointing moment where it was like, wait, nobody's coming back? They were so integral for the first couple of games, and they started to taper off eventually.
Mm-hmm. So here's my question then for Kingdom Hearts. Let's take to Kingdom Hearts 3 for the moment. What was one of the most shocking scenes for yourself?
I'm assuming we're enacting spoilers at this point.
Yeah, the game's been out for like 6 weeks, and this thing's coming out it'll be about 2 months since the game came out. So
okay, yeah, perfect. Big spoiler moment. The epilogue was really interesting. I'm really curious. The great thing, I think the reason that I stick with the Kingdom Hearts games is they always ask questions at the end of the game. They always have your secret endings and stuff, and there's always more to kind of explore. Zigbar's role and what that's going to mean for the future was really interesting. I liked that twist. Something I didn't enjoy, I thought for Xehanort being who he was, and he's this big baddie that's been controlling things in this series for almost 11 games now. His ending was kind of washed over, I felt like.
Thank you. Someone else agrees on that.
I had such a hard time with, he's this big baddie and he's evil and he's the embodiment of darkness, and he tore the Wayfinder gang apart and the Sea Salt gang apart, and there were so many moments where he destroyed these lives. And he almost gets redemption at the end. And for me, that was really hard to process because I needed, I don't know, the way Amsum goes and the way Xemnas goes in Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2 respectively, were very like I'm bad, and I'm going to accept that, and I lost. His was very almost like they gave him redemption, and it was very different from what I was expecting the ending to actually be. Don't get me wrong, I loved it. I think the ending was good. It was just different, and I wasn't expecting it.
No, I totally agree. Like, maybe because we've gotten conditioned to, we are the hero, defeat the bad guy's dead, you win, happy ending, right?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's kind of the reason. But it did feel that his ending was like, because fighting, like, quick question before, what difficulty were you playing it on?
I played on proud. I try to stay as high up level as I can in video games. I enjoy them, but I do like that challenge.
Kingdom Hearts 3 was the first time I ever tried proud mode, and I have a little gripe with that in a little bit, but this is the first time I played on proud mode. I got it. I get to the final battle, trying to fight him during where is it? Ala Ascara?
Scala Ed Kylum.
There it is. What did I say? Did I say it backwards?
You did, but that's okay.
Huh, that is weird. How did I say? Anyways, that is just weird that I got that backwards. Anyways, fighting him and his other forms right there, like, I think that was pretty intense. That fight, like, I spent, everyone listening, and I have this uploaded on YouTube too, but I remember playing the final scenes, where everyone comes together and you're fighting every individual of the organization. And I had to go to work that night, and I finally completed every section. So I got everyone together. It was just the scene before you walk up and you face off with, like, Ansem, Zemnis, young Xehanort, and everything. So it's just before that. So I was like thinking to myself, I have an hour before work. Can I do this? And I said, no. I'll do it tomorrow. I get off work. I spent all this time grinding. I can wait one day of work. I get home from work. I could start playing, or I can get some sleep. No sleep. I decide to, all right, I'm going to do this. I'm going to finish the game after I've worked for 10 hours. And I didn't get any sleep before work either.
Oh my God. Yeah, that's a day, man. Especially because you like got to the end and you had to, like, I gotta wait to finish it off. And I'm sure that was agonizing on top of no sleep.
Oh no, yeah.
It sounded like a almost a painful day.
Oh no, yeah. And I was still thinking of it all during work. I was just thinking of what I've just, like, felt through those scenes, because those scenes, like we've talked about, they're very emotional scenes. So all throughout the night, I was just speculating in my head, like, thinking about everything, and like, oh my God, so much. Then it was time to sit down, because I decided, I'm gonna finish it. This is it. Every game I played, every moment, it's come down to this point. I sat down. 2.5 hours later, I finally beat him, because I was so exhausted and tired from working that I was just yelling at my TV because it was so difficult to fight him. Mostly, okay, the worst, I got stuck on the underwater fight for so long. I honestly wanted to stop playing.
You're like, I want to stop. I need a break, but I can't. There's no safe spots here. I got to go back.
It hurt. So honestly, that was, like, the hardest moment for me. Just like I gotta stop. I hate this. I hated myself so much just in that underwater, because I kept dying over and over. And I honestly was on there for about an hour, and I just, like, mentally couldn't continue. But after kind of cheesing it a little bit, I finally got it. But then, 2.5 hours of fighting all three of, like, him in the ground, water, then the air, then to fight him, like, I think one of the more interesting fight is when you're actually facing him with the Keyblade, and then he takes your light and you're, like, fighting anti-form and all that.
Oh yeah, that ending sequence is fantastic. It's very enjoyable. I think there's a lot of cool sequences in it, especially that whole, you Donald and Goofy, and you think you're dead. I didn't know what had happened at that point. I was like, oh, did I lose? Oh, dang it. And then I come back, but then like, your controller starts vibrating and you have these moments. It was just, that was really well done.
No, exactly. But then to kind of get that ending, that's kind of why the reason I kind of sat there for an hour thinking about it. For that entire moment, for that entire time frame, from me starting to play the game to finish that part of the game, that was about 6 hours in total, because of grinding stuff. And then work 10, 16 plus another 2.5. So it was a total of about 14 hours of my life in that end sequence.
Yeah, there's nothing like dedication to the end of a game, like just grinding and putting hours in, right?
Oh, here's an interesting question. So what was your, like, this game introduced Keyblade transformation. What was the Keyblade that you kind of felt around at the end or enjoyed the most?
Oh, that I enjoyed the most? I really liked the Big Hero 6 Keyblade. I know there was only one Keyblade transformation, but I liked the balance. One, I think it worked really well with the story, as you had this Keyblade that had multiple different iterations. You know, it used the yo-yos, it used the power punches, it had all these kind of things that Sora and Hero would have kind of worked in, and so that was kind of built into the Keyblade. I like that perspective, but I just think it was a cool Keyblade. It had a good balance. That one, and I really liked the Toy Story Keyblade. That one was one I played through most of the game with, actually. After being Toy Story, that one kind of stayed in my slots for a long time.
Okay. So the one that I kind of delved into were, like, my main Keyblade for most of the game was, once I got it, was, I think it was the Highlander from Pirates of the Caribbean, because of the fact of the combos I could break through and the constant barrage and the simple little invincibility frames I could pull off.
Yes, that was a great Keyblade for those moments.
So, like I said, find any way to cheese it when you're in proud mode.
Yeah, exactly.
The only other one that, like, I enjoyed was, it's bugged me that I can't remember what it's called, but it was the Tangled one.
Ever After.
Okay, Ever After. Why can't I remember that? Anyways, it was that one. Not because of its final, like, weird tower effect, but mostly because of when you dodged with it, you make clones of yourself and you can, like, constant attack.
Yeah, that was a nice, and that broke combos. Yeah, that was a nice one to have in the reserves. Absolutely.
Those are the two Keyblades that kind of bounce around. One that I wished I tried to enjoy it a little bit more was I say I'm a Kingdom Hearts fan, but now I'm, like, trashing on Keyblades at the moment. Was what's the one that turns into blasters? Fuck. It's hurting me.
Oh, that's the Starlight Keyblade?
People don't hate us. We are fans of Kingdom Hearts. We can't just know everything.
Hey, I was right. No, that's the Starlight was the one that you got with. This is what Google's for.
It is
Shooting Star.
Shooting Star. So I tried to enjoy that one because I liked how it felt like back in Kingdom Hearts 2 when you were in Wisdom form and just floated around.
Oh yeah, that was fun.
I tried to enjoy, like, I like that fluidity. But there was never a point where I felt like it was doing enough damage to the enemy where, like, I can do better with other Keyblades.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it sucks. But it's for anyone listening, you play the way you want to play. You know, if you like that fluidity, go for it. If you like cheesing it, do that.
Enjoy the game that you're going to play. One of the things I was actually really happy about doing is when the 1.5, 2.5 box set for PlayStation 4 came out, I had decided that I was going to play through Kingdom Hearts 2 on a level 1 mode. And that, I have to say, is one of the most rewarding and challenging things I've ever done in a video game. Don't get me wrong, I lost many hours of sleep on the Roxas boss fight, but at the end of the game, I felt so rewarded after being able to beat through everything in that game on level 1. It's one of those experiences that if you really like the game series, try it out. It's a lot of fun. You'll want to smash your controller a couple times, but in the end, like, there's this moment of, like, I'm the best at this game. I'm really good at this game now. It's just kind of cool. So check it out, everybody. If you have a chance, do it. I've even heard the level 1 on Kingdom Hearts 3 is just as rewarding. It's a little bit easier because you have Keyblade transformations and things are able to be leveled, but still a fun experience.
I'm going to give you a round of applause on just beating that on level 1. I don't think I can even fathom trying to do that. Like, I know I could. I just don't know if my mind would be willing to go through the end for that. But more props on you, man.
Thank you.
So, but have you ever caught some of the speedruns for Kingdom Hearts?
I actually just recently watched BizKit's speedrun at Games Done Quick. He did a couple years ago. My God, that's amazing. Some of the things they do and some of the flow and the speed that they have to do things is absolutely fantastic.
And for anyone listening, I know we've gone off tangent, but for anyone listening, speedrunning is on its own. It's a very interesting community. I myself have only recently within a year, have like delved deep into it. I've just been like, when I get bored, I just watch a speed run of some of the games that I've enjoyed, and yeah, the some of the things that people can pull off and the amount of time they put into try to find these glitches or exploits, and oh god, that's crazy. Like something I never would have thought.
No, I can't imagine the amount of hours somebody put into, all right, I just got to perfect this section of the game, and then we're going to move on, and this is the quickest route through this section. It's truly amazing what these people are doing with video games.
On top of that, like I was lucky enough to catch their live stream during their charity event. Like on top of that, this group, like they're very charitable. They're like, anyone listening, when you get a chance, I'll even retweet it on Twitter. Like they're doing a lot of good work, and they're providing a very interesting content for people, and they're providing like help for a lot of people. On top of that, honestly, go check it out. Game's done quick. It's amazing.
Absolutely. Completely agree with that.
So we're getting towards the end of the show. So we're going to have a few words from these guys.
This podcast brought to you by OuchThatHurts.com. Visit Ouch That Hurts for music, gaming, reviews, editorials, podcasts, and more. Ouch That Hurts. HERTZ.com.
Come hang out and chat with everyone on our Discord channel. Be a part of our community. Hey, how's it going, everyone? I want to give a big thank you to Bill Lazerman. As you've been listening, he works in the audio field, and he was kind enough to offer his services to mix this audio himself. That's why it sounds so wonderful. So if you have any project, podcast, music, or the like, check out his services. All the links will be down in the description. Tell him Jesus sent you. So let's get on with the show. And we're back. Towards the end of the show, I like to ask my guests to kind of regale us of a tale from their past of some of the weirdest, strangest, most convoluted thing that has ever happened, you have ever encountered, or you've ever done.
Oh, fun. Okay, let's do it. So I was going to talk about my ska band, which we actually talked about earlier, but don't worry, you're in luck. I have a secondary story that we can talk about. Living in Orange County and living in the Anaheim area, I was fortunate enough to actually be able to work at Disneyland for a couple of years of my life, which is another one of those experiences that was absolutely fantastic. I really enjoyed the time I was there, met some amazing people. I actually met my wife there. It was one of the greatest experiences of my life, and another one I would just never do again. I got to work at the world famous Jungle Cruise, which is one of my life's dreams that I was finally able to fulfill. And it was such a cool experience. It's one of those things where it is like Disney is everything you think of it as. You go and you get immersed in these stories and these moments. And it was Jungle, and I worked Indiana Jones and the Temple of the Forbidden Eye were my two attractions I worked at my time there. I absolutely adored working Jungle Cruise, being immersed in these show scenes of animals and being in the jungle and being able to tell absolutely god-awful jokes was one of my favorite moments in my entirety of my working history. It was so much fun. And like I said, I would never do it again. But it was such a worthwhile experience. It was so much fun.
That is cool. You're one of the first people to state that. Like, I've had some people from California, and I would have thought one of them would have mentioned that. But cool. I like that you were able to, once again, achieve a goal that you wanted to. And you've done it, and that was the last time you'll do it.
Exactly. Like I said earlier, you climb Mount Everest. Congratulations. Don't need to do it again. I'm good on that aspect. But no, it was one of those things that I'd always dreamed about doing. I had fallen in love with Jungle even when I was a kid. Just the animals and the jokes were so corny, but just wonderful. It was one of those things that, like, being able to do that and be immersed in this experience was really fantastic. music. And like I said, it was a learning experience for me too. I learned what good joke telling is and what bad joke telling is, because a little bit of insight. I'll give you guys a little behind the scenes, peel back the curtain a little bit. So there are good skippers and there are people who don't know how to be a good skipper. I feel like this is the variation. Everybody can be a good joke teller. You just have to learn how to tell the jokes properly. And I think you just have to learn that perspective. And I've met some incredibly funny people in that time. And it was an amazing place to work. And I'm so glad I did it. And it's one of those things that will always be part of my history. And I think will always affect me in a way that it was just one of those things that's going to be part of my life forever. It's great.
All right. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, absolutely. I know it's probably not the craziest story. I really try to find something like jumped off the Eiffel Tower. I don't have as much, but jungle is such an important part of me that I could not tell my story without having to talk about that at least a little bit.
No, and don't worry, you're not the only guest that has pondered this. Even when I give people like days to think about it, because honestly, you never know what someone might say. It can be like outlandish, or it can be something interesting or sweet. It just is what it is. And for me, it's just me getting to know you, and learning that was interesting for me. Anyone listening, it was interesting for you. Say it right now. Let's just scream it out.
It was interesting
loud.
For me. Oh, you weren't asking me. You're asking the audience. Just kidding. I'll say it too. It's fine.
Because it was interesting for you. Now it's over. So, like I said, thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome.
So, let's get into the game show portion of the podcast. So, you decided to actually play 2 games.
I got a little extra time on my calendar today. I figured we'd do 2 instead of 1.
All right. So, let's start with a little scandalous one first.
Ooh.
You chose to play Love Match. Love Match is literally a ripoff of the old Love Match game from back in the day, where I'm going to set you up with 3 individuals, and they all have some unique qualities and one little bonus, and you're going to have to decide why you would choose one over the other. How does that sound?
It sounds great. Let's do it.
All right. So, let's bring up these lovely ladies. All right, let's start out with Cheryl. Oh, interesting. Cheryl has the ability to multiply themselves. On top of that, she has all the same fetishes you do.
All good so far.
Now, okay, we're gonna bring out Layla. Layla owns a penthouse suite in your favorite city, and 2 words: helicopter sex.
Okay.
Last but not least, we have Samantha. Samantha is an amazing dancer. On top of that, she likes it just as rough and gentle as you do.
Okay.
So at the moment, these are your lovely ladies. Who's kind of piquing your interest a little bit more than the others?
Well, Cheryl, right off the bat, you came out hard with her. Like, the ability to multiply, I feel like is such a good ability in so many ways. 1, why have 1 person clean when you can have 8 people clean? 2, same thing with I need to get 3 things done. Oh, perfect. I get to do 1 thing while my other 2 clones get to do other thing. Plus, she's got all the kinks that I got in bed. Like, I'm so down for that. We can get a little dirty here a little bit. Multiple Cheryls all at the same time doesn't sound like a bad idea either. I'm also very interested in Samantha because I absolutely adore Boulder, which is near the area I live in, and I would live there in a heartbeat. Penthouse suite there. The helicopter sex throws me a little bit, though. That I'd love to clarify that, what that means, because are we driving the helicopter? Who's driving the helicopter? Because that would be very important to me. I'd like to be able to focus on 1 thing at a time, and I feel like I'm not as skilled in helicopter driving as I would be able to focus in lovemaking at that point.
So for context, and I'll reiterate for that, I'm going to leave that to your imagination and my listeners' imagination.
Perfect. Okay. Yeah, that would be. I would hope that we could maybe just have like a normal night, or maybe just have like a nice dinner. We go back to my place. I just don't want to have sex in a helicopter every time. That would be kind of a deal breaker for me. And then help me out. What was Layla's again? Sorry.
Actually, that was Layla. That was
Layla.
Layla.
What was Samantha's again?
Samantha is an amazing dancer, and she just likes it as rough and gentle as you do.
Gotcha. I appreciate the dancer. I'm sure Samantha has a great personality and she's a good dancer. I'm sure that it just doesn't have as much pull for me as the other two do. So Samantha, you're a wonderful person. I'm sure you're gonna find somebody who's gonna enjoy your time very much. But I just think it's gonna work out between the two of us.
Okay. You can write her off now, or you can listen to the final.
Let's listen to the final. Let's listen to the final thing. Samantha, you're still in. I lied. Let's hang around for that third act. We'll see what happens.
All right. Since Samantha, Samantha was on your low end. I'm gonna tell you a little bit more about Samantha. Dancer, likes it rough and gentle as you do, and she's not on your radar. And top of that, you know that she thinks you're ugly.
Oh, so I know that she thinks I'm ugly?
Yes.
Oh, Samantha, sweetheart. I really, I was hoping that there was going to be something like a flower and show me more to your personality. That just kind of sealed the coffin. I'm really sorry about that. Sorry, Samantha. It's been great. You will get a at-home version of this game, and that'll be fantastic. But I'm going to have to say toodaloo.
All right. Then, Samantha, sadly, you have to go. So let's bring up to the last two. Now that we're here to the last two with Cheryl and Layla. Layla, helicopter sex, penthouse suite. While you were on your date, you noticed that she had a ukulele with her, and that she never stops playing it ever.
Okay, not necessarily a deal breaker. I do enjoy music, so that's not a bad thing. Is it only during the date, or is she just like 10,000 hours this right now? She's ukulele all day, every day.
All day, every day.
All day, every day. Does she know "Over the Rainbow" by Iz?
She has a multitude of songs on her. I'm gonna let.
Okay, so she can, she can play Wonderwall if she needs. Got it. Yeah. Okay. That's a really interesting. I just hope she puts it down every once in a while so we can have a meal, or maybe go to sleep at a certain point. So not out of the equation, but definitely a little hesitant about that one. I won't lie.
All right, Cheryl has the ability to multiply herself. Same fetishes as you, but she sharts whenever they smile.
Sorry, that's too good. Whenever she smiles?
Yes.
Ooh, that's a good one. Oh man, because Cheryl was it. Like I didn't. You got a little tension in the middle here. Make sure that Oh, is it Cheryl or Layla? That's a rough one. Because that's a lot of laundry to do, just in general. And I have a lot of laundry to begin with. I don't know.
Don't forget, she can multiply herself.
Oh, that's a lot of sharding. Didn't even think about that.
So kind of, brainstorm it. Let us know what you're thinking here.
Okay, all right. Like I said, with the multitude of people, that's a lot of pants to shard. That smell is going to get bad eventually. Now here's the question. I'm assuming she can kind of revert into one person as she multiplies, or do we have to kind of kill off each clone as they appear? Because that's going to get messy. We don't want to have to start dealing in homicide. That's not going to be great.
No, they poof. So
okay. So then my follow-up question for that is, if, say, for example, they all smiled simultaneously and they came together, would they have a super shark?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so basically Dookie in the pants is what I'm hearing. Yeah, that's a lot of Dookie for my taste. I have a 2-year-old and I deal with that as constantly. I don't need more of that in my life. So I think I got to go with Layla on this one.
Final answer?
Final answer. Got to go with Layla. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I could deal with helicopter sex. We take a helicopter ride once a month. I'm good. We'll figure it out.
All right. So enjoy your time with Layla at her penthouse while she plays the ukulele for you.
Yes, that's the life, guys. Find a woman who can ukulele for you. That's all you need. That's all you need in life. Somebody who's willing to play the ukulele.
There you go. So that was Love Match.
That was wonderful.
Made you think. We're going to get into the final game. So our final game is One of Us. One of Us is an experimental improv game where I gave you, the guest, a couple of prompts to put into a speech/spiel or rant, and you're going to have to try to recruit me and the audience to join your organization. How does that sound?
I'm ready for it.
All right. So for the listeners, the prompts he was given were the moon crashes into the earth, shame, and a robot uprising. My final question before you get started, do you have a name for your group?
We are going to be known as the Sunny Sundays.
All right, whenever you're ready.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm so glad you could join me today. There's an issue in our world, and we must prepare for it. A robot uprising is coming, and you must be prepared. You must be ready to take arms against our robot villains. Now, you must ask yourself, do I feel shame? Do I feel the shame and horror that is coming for us? We must band together, brothers. We must come together and make this world a better place. Because if the robots uprise and the robots take over, what's next? The world? The universe? We do not know what we have created, and you must come and join us, because if they get hands on their technology that they need, they will go to the moon. They will find a way that the moon crashes into the earth. It will take out our entire civilization. Everything we know and love will be gone. That's why you need to join me. Join us together, and we will stop the robots in their uprising. We will make sure that they know the shame and humiliation that they want to bring to us. And I want you to join us for not the good of you, not the good of your family, not the good of your country, but for the good of the entire world.
All right. That was good. I have a couple of questions for you then. What happened at your cult's last fundraising event?
Oh, it was great. We baked cookies. We raised some money. It was actually a really great time. I mean, there were several, robots in disguise that tried to come and kill us. But we were prepared for that. That's what we've been working for. And I feel like it was a really good test run for kind of what we were looking for.
All right. Can you tell me about the new direction your cult is taking?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. At first, it was really about just power for me and, control over people. And that was great. It was going really well. But a real serious issue came into the world, which was the robot uprising. We had to make sure that these robots were taken care of. And look around your house. Look around wherever you're at right now. How many pieces of technology can you see within, arm's reach? There's a lot. And we have to be ready for those moments when your coffee maker or your TV or your Amazon Echo rises up and tries to destroy everything we've created. And we needed to stop that. And I felt like my cult was the place to put our foot down.
All right. A few last questions. What is a customary greeting for your group?
We actually have a very way of tricking the robots. So we use a set of binary codes to talk to each other. We don't know what they mean, but if I go 11000111, then a robot's going to know what that means, and we're going to be able to identify that is a robot, and we need to take that robot out.
Here's my last question. I love my cat. Why doesn't my cat like your cult?
So I do have to ask a question about your cat. Has your cat been acting robotic lately? Has it started to be more jointed in its movements? Has it tried to kill you in your sleep? These are really questions that you should be asking, because if they don't like if they don't like my cult, it's possibly that your cat is a robot, and that unfortunately your cat may be joining the robot uprising.
Good to know, as it stares at me at the moment. All right. There you go, listeners. Let us know what you think. Will you join?
So join my cult for the better of humanity.
All right, then. And that's the end of the game. I hope you had fun.
Absolutely. It's been a blast. Thank you for inviting me on.
No, thank you. So this is the point of the show where I let my guests kind of promote anything and everything you would like to have out there.
So, I meant to say this earlier, but we can talk about it now. It's never too late to do what you want to do. If you want to go make the next big blockbuster film, if you want to go act, if you want to paint, if you want to do whatever you want to do, go do it. I'm going to talk about podcasting because that's what I'm working with right now. If you want to start a podcast, do it. It's the most rewarding thing that you're ever going to do in your life, and you're going to have so much fun doing it. And if you need help along the way, Bill Lazerman is here to help you. If you can go to my website, www.billlazerman.com. And that's going to have all the information that I have for you to help you start a podcast. We do everything from blogs to I've been working on audio editing services like we talked about today. Like I mentioned, the top three, one of the biggest things that you could do for your podcast is have good audio. And Bill Lazerman can help you with that. So if you ever have any questions about things, or you maybe want to start a podcast and don't know where to start, don't be afraid to find me. I'm on Twitter, I'm on Facebook, and I want to help. I think my goal with Bill Lazerman and the future of my creative endeavors is I want people to be able to make the things that they want to make. And of course, it starts with podcasting now, but I want to expand to other things, YouTube channels and live streaming. And the world's my oyster, as I like to think about it. So make the content you want to make. And if you need help with that, please don't be afraid to ask questions. I'm here. The podcasting world is a community, and we want to help other podcasters succeed. So do not be afraid to ask questions. Do not be afraid to ask for help. And if you need help in audio editing, please reach out, and I can help you, and we can make your show the best that it could possibly be.
There you guys go. And I'll have links for that all in the description below. So go check out. You can't beat a guy who has laser in his name. Once again, everyone, thanks again for listening. As always, you can try to reach me at on Twitter or Instagram at Tyrant Dominus. There's a link for that below. And thank you for listening wherever you were able to listen, because it's just about everywhere. Google, iTunes, Spotify, just about anywhere podcasts can be heard. And I want to thank my guests. Thank you, Bill, for taking the time out of your day to come on the show and chat for a little bit.
Oh, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for giving me a platform to talk about the things that I really love. So that was awesome.
That is my goal, and I hope everyone enjoyed that. So until next time, see you.
My name is Grant, and I host a podcast called It's Trivial. Now, It's Trivial is a game show in which I pit comedians, musicians, podcasters, and other interesting people against one another, usually in front of a live audience for the sake of public ridicule. Hope you'll check it out. There's something there for everybody. There's stuff for people who like movies, music, history, geography, comic books, and even more. Be sure to give me a follow here on social media on Instagram and Twitter at It's Trivial Show, and check out the entire first season of It's Trivial now in your favorite podcast app. Thanks.